Hello there. How about some Fall Farmhouse home decor DIYs today? I'm Whitney with Crafty Thoughts Whatnots, and let's jump into the craft room. First DIY, and actually the second one as well, we're starting with this little cutting board sign from Dollar Tree, and then this one's also, we're going to use this fall leaf wooden sign from Dollar Tree also. Today's mostly Dollar Tree goodies today. So we're going to take all the goodies and doodads and raffia bows, if you want to call it that, and we're going to deconstruct this sign. Now save this part because we're going to use it in our next DIY, but for now I'm going to basically take these apart and I'm going to do many different little facets for this first little sign. Here's got so many steps to it, but it's so worth it in the end because it's so pretty. So this was a little bit of work here, and I kind of messed it up right there, but I glued that little piece in the back, but it did take a lot of heating. So just heat that up with your heat gun and then use a spackle knife. Some of the wood did not want to let go of itself, as you see there. Now I tried to stain this part of it and it didn't work out. So in a second you're going to see, here is the back of it. We're going to use the back because this was just a small nightmare and it was pointless to put it in here. I used a home decor wood tint, but you see here all these different muddled, just the glue. I could not get that glue even after, and then after sanding it. So my idea is I'm going to cover this, but I want to put this back on. So we're just going to use the back because we're going to layer this on top of that little cutting board sign. So again, this is a home decor, a folk art home decor wood tint in the color walnut. It's my favorite color stain. It's so gorgeous. And I'm using a baby wipe to kind of smooth it on a little bit easier. It helps move things around and keeps your project nice and neat so you don't really see any of those lines. Also helps lighten it at the same time. But I'm just going to give it one solid coat. And now we're going to go back to our little cutting board sign. And I'm going to cover the back of this with some scrapbook paper. This is some pretty decent cardstock from... Actually, I think I got it in a big paper pack, probably at Michael's or Joann's. Oh, not Joann's. Michael's or Hobby Lobby at some point. But it's a nicer cardstock. And I'm going to use my AdTech glue runner. And I am going to basically put the adhesive all around the edges so that we make sure that our paper doesn't come up. And this is how I'm attaching it. I'm not a Mod Podge kind of person. I'm not really into decoupage unless it calls for it, whether it's a rice paper or a tissue paper. But for these types of projects, scrapbooking paper is pretty heavy duty. This is an indoor piece. It's not going to see any weather, hopefully, inside the house, unless there's a hole in the roof, you know what I'm saying? Or if someone leaves a window open. I never thought about that. See, I'm trying to make a joke, but it could happen. Any hoodle. It's a indoor piece, so we're going to use this scrapbook paper. Now, it doesn't fit all the way to the top, but I'm going to show you me piecing this together. So I'm going to cut out the excess after, we put this down. I used a brayer just to make sure I had a good contact with all of it. And now I'm going to use... this is a fingernail file. I get the heavy-duty files in bulk off of Amazon, and they're really good for anything that you want to just really rough up. Now, I'm using the file as, cutting off the excess paper so we can get a nice clean edge, and basically you're just going to go in a downward motion away from your project. And you're going to see me do that quite often in today's video, and basically most of my videos I'm using this technique here. You see that clean edge? It's perfect. And also because our adhesive is right to the edge of the actual cutting board there, it's not going to come up or lift or have any little secrets showing. None of that. No one will ever know, except for the fact that I told you. Now I'm doing the rest of the top here. I'm taking a piece that we cut off of the same paper from below, and I'm going to just piece this together here. Now, don't worry about the seams if you have something like this, because for this particular project, I am going to wrap some jute around there and make its own little hanger out of it. So you're not going to see this little, transition into the other piece. Also, same color, same pattern, texture. And the texture of the cardstock is going the same direction. So I did do that right. Otherwise, half the time I do that, I remember. I see it later on. I see it after the fact. I'm like, oh man, that's upside down. Well, it's the little imperfections that make things pretty, right? Maybe no one else will notice. And of course, people will notice because I tell everyone. Now for this little hole here, I did not have a piece of sandpaper small enough, so I'm using my X-Acto knife. I'm cutting the hole out, but it's looking a little rough. It's looking like it's, on 4 days, no sleep, too much coffee, kind of. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do here? Try different times. Try different angles. Try even a different sander. This is my little fingers. It's called a zip sander, finger sander. That wasn't working either. Guess what worked? My finger. Look at, just shove your finger in the hole and twist it, and she's all pretty. Yeah, use your finger. The most inexpensive craft tool ever, your finger. Also why we have no fingerprints, because I burn them with the glue. Now, moving on to our last little piece of the leaf sign, that smaller piece here. This is actually a decoupage paper I got from TDS, is the DIY struggle. She has some awesome transfers and decoupage paper, and I love this pattern, this little plaid pattern. So I grabbed that there, and we're going to trace out about what we would need for our little leaf here. And then I'm just going to cut out the corner. And I'm going to use my DIY liquid patina. This is a decoupage medium. It's my favorite go-to. And I get this from miltonsdaughter.com. There is a link and a code in my description for all kinds of great stuff. Lori is an awesome person. I get lots of stuff from her there. Again, all my IOD and DIY goodies I get at Milton's Daughter. She also has a lot of decoupage goodies there too, and some rice papers. Now, I'm starting out with a decent amount of the liquid patina towards the top of the project. This is my first time using a thinner or even a tissue paper with liquid patina, and you see here I'm getting a lot of wrinkles. I do believe a lot of the times it's it's not necessarily the products you're using, it's basically maybe as far as the medium you're using, no matter what it is, whether it's Mod Podge or if you make your own decoupage medium from like some sort of glue and water. I believe a lot of times it does have a lot to do with the paper. Now, I mostly exclusively use rice papers and different papers that I get from Lori. They're from, I think, 3 to 4 different companies. There's like the Decoupage Queen and AB Studios and different things like this. This is a very thin decoupage paper. This is not tissue paper at all, but it is a different type of paper than I've used to using. So it might feel as though things are getting a little bit too wrinkly and soggy, but there's a technique of using a plastic bag and smoothing things out. You have to be careful with this stuff because it's very thin, so don't, get too rough with it. I let this sit for just a little bit, put a heat gun to it, and now what I'm doing is before I put my top coat of patina or decoupage medium on top, I'm using my sander, this is my nail file, same thing, and I'm doing the same technique, and I'm getting rid of all of the excess paper. Because what I want to do is I'm going to concentrate on this top part is obviously to seal the paper in. I'm going to concentrate on the edges. I'm going to actually put that liquid patina on the edge of the wood and, of course, the edge of the project to make sure that that paper does get a good seal. It won't come up, it won't rip or bubble or peel or anything like that later on after it dries. I've had some issues in the past with other, basically sometimes it comes down to inexperience, but I just concentrate on my edges now. That's just how I do things. And because of the paper itself, I'm just kind of using this dabbing technique. I'm trying to make it look like it's a painted canvas. And in the long run, you can kind of see it towards the end, but here's our main pieces. We're also going to use my DIY wax, dark wax color on all 3 of these girls here. So we're going to take just pick a separate brush. This is a wax brush. This is actually a stencil brush, one of my old stencil brushes. And I'm only taking the edge of the brush and I'm just basically, I would say, scraping it downward away, almost like the same motion you're doing when you're using the file to get the paper off. I'm going across all the edges of all the projects. Now I'm darkening the edges of my leaf here because, yes, I have stained it with wood tint, but you could use the dark wax to do an extra little bit of staining, but I'm kind of giving it its nice little, farmhouse shadowy effect, if that's what you call it. I mean, half the time, you guys, I'm just making up these terminologies. I don't know if that's what that really is. I just like the way it looks. It's farmhouse. It's cute. And then also just enough on the smaller leaf too. It's very subtle. It's very subtle for this one. And you see here, I'm dabbing it off onto a piece of, I think that's a piece of wood from the back of the leaf that was in the trash. And what I want to do is I want to take off most of it out of the brush. You don't want to load the brush up too much. And there's a lot of times where even though I've clean this brush off and I've just dabbed it on a paper towel, there's still enough residual wax left in the brush that you can attack another project and be fine. And you don't actually have to load more wax into that brush. So now after we've taken our wax and we place that all around all of our projects, this is the idea here. We're going to basically put the larger piece right here in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. Got a little bit of glue off to the side there, but I saved it. And line her up as much as you can, hold it down. And you know what? That stuff is hot. And you can feel it through this little thin Dollar Tree wood. Let me tell you. This is me trying to hold it down, but also not burn myself. So then we say a little prayer and just find a way to hold it down. And then here I was going to do a little bit of kind of extra distressing around the, or just around the outside of the leaf. And it's okay, hold on, Whitney, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's finish this first. Now, the middle piece here, I'm going to layer on top, but I also wanted to add this little guy here. I got this at Dollar Tree as well. This is new this year. They're so cute. These little half acorns and a little leaf that says thankful. I have another one that's like an oak leaf that says grateful. So I got 2 of them. I'm going to use the orange one here, and it's actually already the perfect color. Now, the staples in the back were a little tricky, but I used like I think that's a weeding tool for a die cutting machine that I never use. And I got it out. So then I kind of went a little bit too much here, a little heavy-handed on the wax. Again, that's what's left over in the brush. So after I wiped most of it off, it still has, it gave it enough of an aged look that I'm happy with it, but I'm not painting it. It's a perfect color. Now I'm going to layer our little plaid leaf on top of the normal leaf. And I want to place the acorn in the middle here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up our little seam and add our little hanger to the top of the handle first before I start adding any kinds of little, florals or ribbons or any of those goodies on there. So I just make sure I get this done first. And I'm actually pretty proud of myself for remembering to do this first, because half the time I will forget and have to lay the project on its face and smush everything. I mean, if I had a nickel, I'd have many nickels. For every time I've done that, if I had a nickel, I'd have many nickels. Now, first I wrap this thing up pretty tight, and then I'm like, well, hold on, Whitney. We need to make a hanger. So then I unwrapped a little bit of it, more than half, and I'm holding it here with my thumb. I'm bringing up an extra piece here, bringing it down to the other side, and holding that with my index finger. And it might look a little confusing. Oh, Henry's in the background, by the way. He says hi. It might look a little confusing here, but I'm holding this on each side, and I'm going to wrap my extra jute around this piece on the back. And it is a little awkward, but as long as you just keep holding it here and pulling it forward, you're good to go. And then at some point you will see that you can get a good momentum going and start wrapping it again. So I'm using the jute to hold itself, hold the hanger in on itself, if that makes any sense. Makes sense to me, but that's because I'm the one saying it. Let me know if that's more confusing or not. But the hanger itself, I didn't want to put it through the hole. I wanted it to be a little bit weird. Also, you don't have to use this hanger. You can kind of tuck it behind it if you want to lean it up against a shelf on the wall. Now, here's some new ribbon that I got from Amazon. At first it came in this weird, body bag, black trash bag looking thing. I don't know what Amazon was doing, because it's like, wait, hold on, this stuff is supposed to be natural colored. And why did they send me black? Well, once I opened the package, I could see, okay, no, they've wrapped it very strangely. So looks like garden trash at some point. I have no clue what Amazon was thinking. But anyways, I love this stuff. It's only about an inch wide burlap ribbon. It's very, it has some stiffness to it because it is a burlap. But obviously here you can see I'm making my loops pretty big. I'm going to get a somewhat, droopy effect. And it's not going to be completely it won't sag down and fall off, fall forward. But I'm making the loops in the size that will make me happy. And again, it's not wired. It's just a natural 1 inch wide jute ribbon that I absolutely love. So in this instance, this bow, I'm going to attack it a little differently. So I'm going to glue down these little loops in stages and in layers. No holding, no bundling, no pinching and tweezing, pinching and tweezing. No pinching the middle or having to hold all these loops. So if you see here, I'm just kind of layering them on top of themselves, put a little bit of glue everywhere, and then just to tack it down, I've got 2 staples right in the middle. And that's basically going into the wooden leaf, not the actual cutting board you'll see here. There's nothing pokes through, so we're good to go. And now I'm going to place my acorn in her new home so that we can start adding all of the extra little accoutrements, all the extra little happiness. That's my favorite part. The main construction is always fun too, but these last little details is what makes me happiest. So I'm putting my acorn right where I want her, and I need to add a little bit extra to the bow. So I got out my cheesecloth. Also, I got this from Amazon, and I didn't have to cut any. I have some extras, remnants right there. So again, it says cheesecloth, 5 yards. It's just a big old bag. I got that from Amazon. I don't have to cut this little extra piece apart. So these little stray pieces here, if you notice, cheesecloth will fray naturally. So I'm going to show you real quick. This is what it kind of looks like after you've cut it or tore it. Literally just run your hand over the edges. That's it. Over and over and over again. And look how perfect it frays. It frays for you. The work is very minimal. Now the rest of this is me fumbling with these little cut strips. These were all leftovers from other bows and a couple things I've stamped on cheesecloth. I've done many things with it. So I'm just kind of layering these together, and I'm kind of taking them in my hands, holding them, and then just creating loops back and forth. So I'm basically bundling them together and then finding a way to hold them in the middle so that they kind of look like a very, like almost French, like a French shabby, like very shabby chic look. This one is definitely going to be very floppy because cheesecloth does not have any structure to it. It's very thin. So I'm taking a piece of jute twine and I'm going to bundle it in the middle and then tie a knot around it. And again, I've got loops on either side, and we're fraying it because we want it to look pretty. That's because, just because. That's what we do, right? So I frayed it, I bundled it, and now I'm going to glue it to the burlap just above the acorn here on the project. And we aren't done yet. Now I am going to add more jute twine. I'm doing a finger bow in jute twine. Now I have a separate tutorial for a finger bows that slows things down, goes into more detail, and practice makes perfect, I'll tell you that. And for this one, I'm just doing a very large one. And I think I only did about 3 loops on each side because I don't want that gathered huge, like, you can do a hand where you just wrap the jute around your fingers like 5, 6, 7, 10 times. But this one I want it to be more subtle, a little bit thinner. And so this way I've got 3 loops on each side, and I got my tails in the middle. So it's not a very thick or bulky little accent to go on top there. So I just wanted to do that cute one. But if you want to take a peek, I have a separate finger bow tutorial linked in my description. So take a peek at that. I should probably do an update. I think I made that video about 3 years ago, but it still works. It still works. Very, very fun. Now I'm dusting the rest of this. I was getting some of the fuzzies off, and it's like, you know what, why don't I just try to distress the rest of it? So I also noticed while I was doing that with the extra wax that I wanted these tails to lay as I chose, not how they wanted to. Again, it's my project. So I'm just tacking down my tails in just a really, I want it to look not on purpose. So that's how I felt that they needed to lay down. And then I thought I was done, but I'm going to add some greenery. Now I've got these greenery picks from Amazon, and I bought them in anticipation for Christmas coming up, but I've been using them in almost all my fall projects. They look great on pumpkins. They look great on a lot of things. Because again, these evergreen or pine looking things, actually I think these kind of look like the branches of a juniper tree, if you ask me, honestly. It's just really cute greenery. So I ended up cutting all of the little branches off of the pick itself. So it gave me, look at all the little opportunities off to the right. All these little tiny pieces I can tuck in and around the bow, the acorn, the cheesecloth. If you have a very big fluffy bow or a centerpiece or something, this is usually how I do. I can't leave bows alone, so I end up putting the greenery or the leaves or a flower accent. In this instance, I am going to add these little pieces of this pick all around, in between all of the loops, the layers, and I love how it turns out. We got a lot of browns and oranges and a lot of good fall colors, but I think the green just adds something to it. Because I believe if this is, it does remind me a lot of juniper. My grandma had a juniper tree in her yard. It had little blue berries on it, I believe, but it never went dormant. Like it didn't turn brown, didn't lose its leaves. I believe that's called deciduous. It's an evergreen, so an evergreen. Yeah, I kept everything. So again, it stays green year round. So I figured this lends still some good foresty, farmhouse, fall foresty. Insert more descriptive fall words here. Almost said F words. That would have been bad. But anyways, that's not what I meant. Fall, floral, farmhouse, happiness. Tell me what you think. I love how she turns out. It's gorgeous. So again, two signs. We layered them all. We added our own touch to them, and I think they look great. Tell me your thoughts. Now, remember this part? We didn't throw it out because we are going to use this for our next project. So look how cute she is. My sister actually wants this. She requested that of me because I said I put it to the side. I was going to make something else. And she said, oh, can I have that? I don't have anything like that with conversions on it. I said, absolutely. Now, this is definitely fall themed. It's got pumpkins on it. Now, I grabbed a wood round that I didn't have any blank ones from Dollar Tree, so I can't let the punkies go to waste. I was very, very careful with this, and I got this off. So you're probably going to see this in the next video. Quite honest, you will see that in my next video. Now I'm going to take the back of the sign, and I'm going to use that same wood tint. It's Folk Art Home Decor wood tint in the color walnut, my favorite. And I'm going to cover the entire back of this, because remember the front actually still had some extra decorative pumpkins on it. And yes, as much as that hurts my heart to cover those, it wouldn't have worked with the way I want to put the round on here like this. So I'm just basically measuring to make sure I have it, because we don't have to cover the center. It's just wasted product at this point. So I'm just making sure that my edges are all even and the color is how I want it to be. And then we're going to cover the back of it. Now see, the pumpkins aren't 100% either, because that other extra raised piece was in the middle, so they're not quite finished. So it's not exactly that much of a loss for my pumpkin heart. I mean, again, I love it, but in any event, we need it to look nice and neat and even. So same technique I did on the first DIY. We're taking that Aztec glue runner. This is scrapbook adhesive. It's a pretty good paper adhesive. That stuff is not coming off once you touch everything. And actually, you see right here, I accidentally touch it to the top of that right there. See, and it gets stuck. I got lucky on that one, because there's been lots of times where there have been mishaps that did not come back apart. Now I'm just going to place this down. This is also, this is just craft paper or shipping paper. You can get this in the shipping supplies or the, office school supply section. I got this roll at Dollar Tree. And just as we've done with other projects and scrapbooking and the decorative part of it, we're just going to use a finger sander or some sort of sandpaper and just scrape off the sides, go downward and away from the project, and that just creates a good little cut edge, gives you a nice clean finish. And so now the back is pretty and nobody knows, again, other than the fact that I told you. I'm going to poke the holes back through, because we're going to put the same hanger back in there. It was very low key. This is just something that was like, I didn't want to waste the little kitchen conversion part that I took off of the original cutting board sign. It's super cute. So this was just me making a recycle out of an extra piece. And somebody else wanted it, so I said, absolutely. The opportunity that I can jump on to make something for someone, I will do it. I love it. I love doing that stuff. And again, fall and oranges and reds are not my sister's style. She's more of a light blues and calming things, and snowflakes actually, but she loves this. So if you can see here, I'm taking it and I decided to place this at a lower angle, because I'm going to put a bow and some greenery at the top. So the arrows were to show you that I was just pulling it down and still keeping it center, so that we have an even border from the sides to the back, and sides to the bottom and then back to the top. So it is gradually bigger on top, but we do need that extra space for the goodies that we're going to put on there, so we don't cover up the actual sign itself, because we need to read it. Now, same as before, because it seems to be my favorite thing to do. It gives such a good look, doesn't it? I love the way this looks. So again, that's my DIY dark wax that I get from miltonstarter.com, putting it all around the edges. And then I'm also putting it around the edges of the actual picture here too. And it gives it a nice little kind of weathered look. And then also I take a paper towel and I just kind of rub those in, just so I don't have any brush strokes. Now I'm going to put this cute little rope. I forget what it says. Is it jute rope? Burlap rope. I was wrong. I got this from Amazon a while back. And I'm just going to put a decorative little border around our little sign decoration. That way it doesn't, you can't see the cardboard part of it, because the cardboard part to me cheapens it. It doesn't look so nice. So I still want to keep it, but I want to make it look pretty. So just adding a little one layer, and this was actually the perfect size. And then you cut this off. As soon as you cut it off, I glue it down, and then the rope itself doesn't fray. We got a nice little transition. There's a small piece you could see there. I'm going to I'm going to burn the fuzzies off and make sure, again, I have a water bottle nearby. So again, there's no issues there. I have started fires, and they've been in my videos. You guys have seen that. We won't talk about it, but everything's fine. Now, this is some gorgeous ribbon I got at, I think, craftoutlet.com many years ago. You could see that I paid $6.25. You could take a peek if you want. There's the code on the side of that if you wanted to look slow, rewind it a little bit and slow down or pause the video, but I'm pretty sure they don't have it. I bought this probably 7 or 8 years ago. Now, I was messing around with just some little loopy bow type things here, and let me tell you, I've cut so much out of these videos. When I make bows, guys, it's like I forget that I'm recording. And I will have like 26 minutes of just me messing around with the ribbon, making different loop sizes and placements and all that. And it's so hard for me to edit these things for you guys to actually give you the good, the meat and potatoes, what you really need to see. So I'm just showing you me starting things out. This is about this is a 1/2 inch grosgrain ribbon. It's a gray color. And lately my thing is I love throwing grays in with the browns. I don't know what it is. It's like something I would have never put together in the past, and I love the way they look together now. So here's me just cutting the ribbon apart. Now this doesn't stay this way at all. This is just the beginning. This is only the beginning. At first I thought I would bundle this together, but then what happens is, like most of the time I'm making bows, the thought process and the creative process means take it all apart, Whitney. Let's just start over. We'll start another loop. Nope, we're going to start over again. And in this instance, we're going to do this main part, no tails. So I'm literally just making a solid loop. Just cut a piece of ribbon and make a circle out of it. Pinch it in the middle. So I'm going to cut the excess of the ribbon off, and I'm literally making a circle. You see how it basically turns itself into a circle. You can secure that with hot glue, so you don't have to hold things together if that's easier for you. I don't remember if I did that or not, because again, I finished this a couple days ago and I'm editing. I can't remember. Yes, I did. See here. I'm just tacking them all down, even in the center of the top of the next one. And then I'm going to take my end piece of my silver or gray ribbon here and do the same thing on top. And this one is not completely secured in the middle because I am going to end up adding a tail of the gray grosgrain. The gray grosgrain. Say that. The gray grosgrain. The gray grosgrain ribbon. That's a good challenge right there. Gray grosgrain. Now, adding an extra piece here, I'm just going to pinch it right there. If you see, I pinch it, I put a little crease in it, and I bring the pieces lower. So I'm not sure if I can even explain that one. So I'm putting a crease in it, but only towards the bottom of the ribbon. And so that's giving you the faux look of tails underneath the main loop part here. So after that, again, I'm only using just a dot of glue on all of this just to secure it. These days I've been doing a lot of bows that you don't really have to hold on to too much. If you have a problem with grip strength or hand strength, you've got issues. So here, this whole thing is just, I got little dabs of glue here and it's still being pinched everywhere. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to start with the same jute twine that I love using so much. It's a very small bundle. I'll show you on the next DIY, you'll see. Very small bundle of 3,600 square feet. But I'm going to take some of that jute ribbon or that jute twine and start by gluing it to the back and then just wrapping it around the middle. So now we have a cute little bundled bow. And there's really nothing to cover up in this instance. Half the time what I would do is either I would use wire or a pipe cleaner and then just twist it on the back. And then I have always a plan to cover that up with greenery or leaves. In this instance, I didn't want to have to do that. So I'm using the jute in the middle, and that gives me my natural brown right next to that pretty gray. And I just like how all the colors work together. Also, the fuzzy edge of that ribbon is just making me happy just to look at it. It's so cute, those fuzzy edges. Now, I decided to put the blow off center to the left a little bit. I liked it. It just felt good. It felt good to me. And then to cover up that small little transition of that burlap rope that we put around our accent there, around the sign, I just glued the little edge of that fuzzy orange ribbon to that, so there's no chance that you'll see it. Now, I took an extra piece of that burlap rope and I kind of did the same thing that we did with the gray. So I just kind of twisted it together and made a little awareness ribbon shape. And now I'm taking a small piece of jute twine and just tying this and securing this in the middle as well. I wanted to add one more, and I wanted to tie this into the bow itself since it's used as an accent around our sign. So it makes me happy. She's so cute. And again, this one was just something that I did just to, again, at a request. My sister wanted this little conversion thing because she saw me. She's like, yeah, I'm going to take this off this and I'll put this. She said, can I have that? I'm like, sure. I'm like, can I make something for you out of it? She said, sure. And just like we did with our first one, I'm going to take the same little picks here. It's the Amazon picks. I believe they're juniper picks. And we're going to cut them apart and we are going to tuck them in and around our bow, our burlap rope, our gray grosgrain ribbon. in, above, and around. We are going to add another element to this in a second, but I wanted to show you this, how I'm just tucking these in. Just a little bit of glue, tuck it in here. A little bit of glue, tuck it in here. This is the part that's kind of like a floral arrangement, but it's just basically the bow. And I literally go overboard. And I think in this instance, overboard is good. You know, some of these words people automatically associate with being negative sometimes are the positives in things. So if you say, oh yeah, I went overboard with the greenery, in my opinion, that's impossible. It's like saying I'm going overboard with pumpkins. Never happen. Never happen. So again, tuck all these little pieces in all around wherever you see fit, whatever makes you happy. And if you think you've done too much, add some more. It gets better. What is it if it's not over the top, right? This is for decoration. So now I have these picks. These are longer or larger, like fall colored evergreen or eucalyptus I get from Amazon also. So I'm putting a larger chunk of them on either side of the bow. And then I'm just taking extra little pieces off of those little picks themselves, like right here. And I'm just placing some glue around the bottom edges and on those other leaves. And then I'm using that to secure that to our bow, the sign, the rope. So, you know, I'm using all the elements I can to just kind of build up the middle here. And then I had 2 extra little leaves here that I pulled off from one of them to make it shorter. And I decided to glue them together. So I'm kind of just taking the garbage and I'm putting it back in. So again, I glued those leaves together. And then now I'm just going to tuck them into the side here. I just love it. It's just these extra little tiny pieces. Make me so happy. The only thing I could think of is like I probably could have put in maybe some pip berries or some berries, but I love the way it looks. I love the way it turns out. And again, this is just saying, hey, somebody was asking me for a piece of a project that I was going to save or put to the side. And I just got to be able to make something nice for it. It's cool. And again, almost all Dollar Tree and then a little bit of Amazon. What do you think? I love her. She's so pretty. And you can still read everything. I didn't cover it with ribbon and greenery. I'm so proud of myself. Patting myself on the back right now. Now, this last DIY for the video, this was the brainchild of having to wait for decoupage paper and medium to dry. So I had this little octagon chicken thing. This is a Dollar Tree tabletop piece I've had in my stash for many years. I haven't known what to do with it yet. I was trying so desperately to save this chicken or rooster or whatever it is. I think it's a rooster. I was trying so hard to save it. It did not work out that way, as you can see here. Then it turned into an absolute mess of trying to get this off. It's like, well, should I soak it? Should I not soak it? It took a lot of heat gun and a lot of chipping at it and many choice words and anger and then happiness. So anyway, so now it's clear, it's clean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, I was going to say tuft it, but I'm not actually tufting it. I'm maybe giving it a faux tuft, but you'll see what I mean. I decided to turn this into a pumpkin top. This is like the top of a pumpkin. It's so cute. So basically, you go to cut the top of your pumpkin off to carve pumpkins or whatever. When I was a kid, we would cut the tops off. And the funny part is that we wouldn't do circles. We would do stuff like this. We would do the easy ones so you can make sure you get them put back together. You put the lid back on after you put your, after you put your candle inside of it. So this immediately, when I saw the octagon, I was like, that could be a pumpkin top. So I'm taking, this is like not fusible. This is like, what is it? It's not interfacing. It's webbing. It's like, it's for making quilts or blankets or padding things. It's not necessarily polyfill, but it's basically an interfacing or some sort of webbing. And again, the word is literally escaping me right now, but I've said this in many of my videos. I just made 2 wreaths for Halloween with the same stuff. I'm going to pad this to make it look poofy. So I'm going to put a solid chunk of hot glue in the middle, and I'm purposely melting it because I know that this stuff will melt with hot glue. So I'm using the hot glue to my advantage, and I am melting the center of all of this so it sticks to itself. And you'll see in a second. And then I'm going to build up the edges. I wanted to just keep cutting, the octagons, 1, 2, 3, 4, hexagon. There's 6 sides. I wanted to keep cutting them in smaller and smaller pieces, but it wasn't really turning out the right size. So now that I've got the middle all glued in and melted to itself, I'm going to add these extra little strips from cutting those things apart back to the edges. I'm just dabbing it around because basically we're going to cover this in fabric in a second. And I'm building up the edges so that I can have a center that comes down and then the outside. So it looks like the top of the pumpkin. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm getting here? You picking up what I'm putting down? Now, I have this beautiful pumpkin and sunflower fabric from Dollar Tree, and I just basically lay it over top of the project, and I'm cutting out a square big enough to cover every side. Now, I'm finding the center, and then I'm just going to flip her over. So I got my finger, there's a center. I flip her over. I've got enough excess on all the edges that I can just start gluing. Now, I don't have to worry about pulling it too tight because I want it to be that way because we're going to glue a stem in the middle. But I'm going to start with just two of the edges opposite each other. Now, from here, there was probably a better way to do this. But again, this was just me wasting time because I needed to wait for at least a good amount of time for the decoupage stuff to dry on that first project. That paper was way too thin. You do not want to work with it if it's still wet. It will tear and it's not good. So I just started gluing the edges down, pretending like I'm either like trying to find a way to fold the fabric where it works. I've done other projects where I've covered things in fabric and it works out a lot better. I was thinking maybe try to pretend I'm, making bed sheets or something, find a way like you're wrapping a present, those types of things. So a couple of the corners are not my favorite, but again, it doesn't matter because this is all meant just to make you happy. So as long as you're smiling, it's okay. As long as you're happy, you're doing fine. So some of these edges are perfect, some of them aren't. But even then, it's all subjective to what you want. Find a way to secure all of the fabric down around the outside. So, and I tucked this guy in on the side a little bit, and then now we have a little piece here. I should have put more of that webbing underneath here, is what I should have did. It's not poofy enough, but you get the idea when we're done here. So now I want to cover the back because this is a tabletop piece. I thought about putting legs on it, but I didn't. So I just have this extra piece of, what is this? Felt. Almost said fleece. That's extra felt I had laying around. I'm going to trace out the actual size of the project from the outside. And then I'm going to use a pair of pinking shears to put that cute little zigzag edge on it because it's so cute. And I'm going to cut inside of the lines I drew just to make sure that it's a little bit smaller than my project. Now, for some reason, this was smaller than I thought it was, and it was crooked. So I don't know why I can't seem to draw lines and then follow those lines. See, like right there, I totally went crooked, and I know I did it. So it's basically covering up, obviously, the parts here we don't want to see. So I'm putting some scrapbook adhesive in the middle, and this is just to hold the felt down. We're going to put this in the middle to hold it down to the center part where there's no fabric. And then around the fabric here, I'm going to use my hot glue and I'm going to attach it around all the edges. Be careful. I mean, I'm using my detail tip smaller glue gun so this stuff doesn't get as hot. It gets hot, okay? It's not like my other glue gun will literally melt the flesh from your fingers. This one will just burn a lot, but still be careful. I just wanted to get the glue all the way to the edges to make sure everything looked okay. And then at some points, I did still trim off a couple pieces just to try to make it look even. Again, this is the bottom of a project. You will never see it. But sometimes these are the details that make you happy, then go for it. Because for me, I want things to look as finished and as nice as possible. I have to hide all of its original. Like basically, I hide all of the lies underneath paper or felt. I don't want you to know where this came from. This was originally born, and this is what it had no other life. This is not secondhand. It's all just whatever craft soap opera you want going on in your head, right? So for me, I'm telling stories. Now, I have this extra little plastic stem. Normally, I don't save these things because they're kind of very generic. You see this kind of stem on so many fake pumpkins, but I'm finding the center here. Again, my angle, you can't see that there is still a little bit of a poofiness around there. Now, the extra pieces on the stem were preventing me from getting that down into the hole that I made for the size that I made it. So I ended up just taking all that little decorative edging around it, took it off. I was going to cover it with Spanish moss anyways, so no harm, no foul. Got the chunks off the bottom, and then I ended up sanding it flat with one of my hand sanders. It's a soft plastic. It's not detrimental to it. You'll see here. That's about as flat as it gets. And then now it fits perfect in that little circle that we made with the hot glue. Now, collected up all my goodies. I have some Spanish moss. I have a raffia bow that I already made and some berries. But again, we're going back in with my favorite dark blacks for this, I don't know, this year. And this is just what's left on the brush. I did not open that bottle. I haven't used it. This is just what's left on my brush from my previous projects. And I'm going at the edge, and that's it. I'm going to dust the top of it too, just so that the fabric isn't so bright and brand spanking new. I want it to look a little dirty. I want to look like it sat outside, got forgotten about, got a little dirty. That's like the best part of farmhouse, is the fact that you can get away with stuff being, you know, well loved, we'll call. So I found the center of where all, you know, we want this to come in at. We want it to go down into like a tufted effect. I put a big dollop of glue there, stuck the stem in it, and then I'm taking all of my Spanish moss that I had off to the side, and I'm tucking it around that glue while it's still hot. So that way we have all of this being fused together at the same time. That's just how I did it. You don't have to do it this way. But I knew I'd technically used too much glue to begin with for me to let it dry and then put more glue on top of it. So I kind of just, you know, two birds kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Now, I just pushed all of that Spanish moss all around the outside of it. And now this is actually a piece of a garland that I get at Hobby Lobby for, usually get it on sale. It's a 6-foot garland. So it's really nice to take those things apart and tuck them in. So I'm going to use this as my tendrils for my punky, or my punky top. So it's like it's a tabletop pumpkin top. Pumpkin tabletop pumpkin top. Pumpkin tabletop top. Anyway, it's just, what is it? You look at it and it's cute. I love it. I just think, I don't know why, it's like, this is just one of those things. I just thought of it. It just came to me. But it's a pumpkin top. Who wouldn't love that? It's like muffin tops. Muffin tops are the best thing ever. Like, I don't even want the rest of the muffin. I only want the top of the muffins. But like Costco muffins, man, we can talk about that. You just pull the top of that. Anyways, sidetracked. Back to punkies. This is some burlap leaves I've got at Hobby Lobby. I've had them for years. I took the leaf out and I cut the center top piece off. And since there's still wire on the back, I can bend it and manipulate it the way I want. So I put like just a little wrinkle in it. And we're going to glue her down just on the end, right, tucking it into the project where you see fit. For me, this felt great right here. So I'm going to eventually glue that down. Now, I don't show you here, but I believe after the fact, you'll see in the little reveal in the studio light video I take, I do tuck some more Spanish moss underneath at the bottom right here where I'm putting glue. I let that glue dry, but I didn't put any Spanish moss under there. So nobody wants to see that. So I'm holding it down with extra pieces I find fit. Now I'm putting Spanish moss on top of it, but for some reason, the brain did not translate for me to cover up the oopsie on the back. So no one wants to see that big glob of glue under the leaf. If you're looking, at this point, it will be covered, and I'll definitely point that out when we get to the reveal. Extra little pit berries that fell off of our little garland there, the white pieces. So I literally will cut them. I'll twist them together because they're kind of like connected like a jumping rope, like jump rope or nunchucks. And I twist them together with my fingers to get a good little stiffness to them, and then I cut off the ends, put some glue on it, tuck them in. Here is my very tiny, very small little bundle, as I lovingly pat that. 3,600 feet of jute twine. Again, I don't have to worry about Dollar Tree not stocking it for me anymore. This is actually a better quality in my opinion. Now, I'm going to make a bundled bow to go behind this little raffia bow. That raffia bow has been in my ribbon stash forever. I literally just took some extra pieces of raffia that were on the floor and I just made some bows. It just was one of those things where I was like, well, am I going to throw this away? Will it turn out? The first time I made my little bundle bow here, it wasn't big enough. So I had to undo it, spread my fingers apart wider to make my bow wider. It's perfect size now. Then take the excess, wrap it around the middle, put down some glue, and then hold that there to secure that. And now I have a finished little bow, no tails. And then now I can use this and layer that below my little raffia bow. I just wanted an extra little something. And again, I didn't want to go too big, even though that's kind of my MO. But I did need something. I didn't want to just put the raffia on it and go. Now, a lot of times you could stop 5 times, could have stopped on this thing 5 steps ago, but these are the things that make me happy. These extra little pieces where you find things here and there, you can add and tuck them in. Here's some more of the pip-berry-ish little pieces that came off of our little tendrils there that we cut apart from our pick from the garland. And then here I'm cut one apart completely, and I'm tucking the pip berries in. And then this one I'm going to add as like a third little berry. So I have to get the tweezers out here because my fingers and my fingernails will not be kind to that. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the bottom of that there. And I'm going to tuck it right into the bottom to make that a little trio. Again, these are teeny tiny details. This is the stuff that makes me happy. Are you a little tiny fine detail person, or are you more like chunks and then throw it together and it's done? Because that stuff is gorgeous also. You know, it just depends on what mood you're in, right? But what do you think? I probably could have put a little bit more padding underneath that fabric so it'd be a little bit more poofier. But in any event, you get the idea. It's a pumpkin top and it makes me happy. And for me personally, it hits home because that's exactly what we did to our pumpkins when I was growing up. We cut them in, you know, angles. We didn't do circles. We did these angles, so they're just easier to pop back together. And I love how it turns out. It's one of those things that just makes me happy. This reminds me. I don't carve pumpkins anymore because I'm not really a Halloween person, but I used to carve them when I was a kid, right? But just to have a little pumpkin topper pumpkin tabletop top thing. Insert descriptive piece here. What is it? It's pretty and I like looking at it. Now, the signs were great. This one is my favorite. I think the colors, the warm. I love mixing the purple in with there. You know, turquoise is also a good color to mix with these oranges, these warm oranges. But I love how this little grouping turned out here. And then that little gift there from my sissy. She's going to like it when she sees it. Now, I have a coffee page, so if you've learned something from my videos and you feel like you want to send a donation my way, you could do so here. Never required, always appreciated, and also my DIYs will be for sale there. So with all that said, if you're still with me, I love you more than I can possibly say in words. Thank you so, so much. You guys are my fuel, and you're wonderful, and I couldn't be doing this without you. So many, many hugs, happy crafting, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.